for qualifying. Hello and welcome to round 20 of the Formula One World Championship. It is the Mexican Grand Prix from Mexico City, and over the next hour and 10 minutes we will find out who will be on pole position, who gives themselves every chance of being a winner around this wonderful circuit, celebrating 60 years of Formula One this weekend. Jackals, there's something about the fever, the fiesta of Mexico, which just makes it exciting for Formula One fans.
Yeah, great atmosphere in Mexico City. Great city, and I think we're in for a really interesting qualifying session. Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari. Well, I was going to say they're all in the mix, but are they? Is it an open goal for Mercedes? TBD.
TBT, TBC, whatever you want to call it. We have had a fastest session for Sainz in the Ferrari, for Russell in the Mercedes yesterday, and then again for Russell, followed by Hamilton in the earlier practice session. Who has work to do? Top six, Jolyon Palmer, for marathon driver, if they are going to reverse fortunes and get a pole position today.
If you're not doing the work, you move backwards in Formula One. So everyone has got to be fine-tuning their cars, getting ready for this qualifying. Mercedes favourites, but they are doing the work as much as anyone, because Russell has that pole in Budapest, but they haven't had qualifying pace up their sleeve in pretty much all the rest of the races. So they're not going to be counting their chickens at all. Ferrari were the most disappointed team after practice earlier on. I think the mercurial mystery around here is the soft tyres, which are going to be the tyres used in qualifying, as is the norm. Red Bull and Ferrari were not getting them working all that well in practice earlier on. Conditions are not completely different. If they can turn them on, maybe they can find a little bit more pace.
Andrew Benson, the BBC's chief F1 writer. A little threat of rain in the air as well. The FIA saying 60%.
Doesn't look like rain at the moment, though, Jenny, does it? It will be the first time it's rained in Mexico at the Grand Prix for quite a long time, I think. I can't even remember, to be honest. I could be surprised, but I'm not expecting it. And in fact, they hold the race at this time of year specifically so it doesn't rain, because there were times when people wanted to move it to earlier in the year and they didn't want to because there was more chance of rain then.
If only other tracks would take example from that, namely Suzuka. But there we go. Session's going to get underway in just over 2 minutes. And I think a lot of people will be thinking, Mercedes, could they really do it? Jolyon, could they really do it?
They could. Are they favourite?
One pole all year, and that went to George Russell in Hungary.
Topped the only this weekend. Hamilton looked good on the Pirelli test tyre. Else was on the tyre who was quicker than them. He looked as well. De Vries in the other car and in that session and didn't do anything.
You know what this circuit has in common with Hungary? High downforce. Although there's long straights, it's counterintuitive. Because of the high altitude, all the teams are on maximum downforce in Mexico. This is not me saying I think Mercedes are going to be on pole, because I don't. I still would favour Red Bull.
Despite all of the facts.
Well, I don't know about the facts. We've seen some practice sessions.
You always know about the facts. That's your thing.
Which fact?
But there are reasons to think that they will be more in the mix than in most other races this year.
And it's interesting you mentioned the high downforce, because the other which times to get downforce was good, and there's bumpy and a lot of curbs. There's people taking a huge amount of curbs. This year, but there's not the just inherent bumps of a street circuit.
They're going to end up 5th and 6th on the grid, aren't they?
Well, Checo, Perez, they cheer in the stands. 100,000 people have packed into the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. He has a chance as well this weekend. I had my head down. What were you chuckling about?
There's a sign saying, "Oh, Charles, I will swap my brother for a photo with you." I'm not sure Leclerc would be up for that trade.
Yeah,
I think he'd rather have the photo and not
Not
maybe
the
have this
brother?
person's brother.
Right, till the session gets underway. It is qualifying. It's the Mexico Grand Prix, and this is Jack Nicholls.
I wasn't quick enough on the Google Translate. I was going to look up what sell is in, or trade is in Spanish.
Vienda. Radio check, Nick. You might want to double check it.
What have you just made him say on the radio?
Yeah, actually, I said that far too.
You're so trusting.
Comercio. What do you want to type in?
Well, sell.
Sell.
This is why you tune in.
Vendar. Very.
Hey.
So this is the Circuit de Manos Vendar, the circuit where you come to sell your brother. And we've got 17 minutes for those of you syncing up, and 24, 23, 22, 21 seconds on the clock. Haas straight out on circuit. Mick Schumacher and the K-Mag both out on track coming into turn 4. Schumacher ahead of Magnussen on the circuit at the moment as they loop around the far part of the course. 1 minute 18.399. That's the best lap time we had earlier on in free practice, set by George Russell. So low 1 minute 18s were the benchmark early on, and we'll see what sort of lap time we get here. The TP now giving the pit lane as well. At the moment, everybody else remaining in the pits. The battle to get out of Q1 is going to be interesting, I think, because Williams looked quite quick. Haas looked like they're struggling, but apart from Haas, Aston Martin looked a bit slow earlier on. Okay, they did long running initially, but Vettel and neither of them lit up the timing screens after that in FP3. So I think they're going to be in a little bit of concern
We
for them.
have had, stats-wise, just so you know, 10 different pole sitters in the last 10 races. Now, admittedly, that takes you back to 1989, but the likes of Verstappen, Perez, Russell, who's the other one? Verstappen, Perez, Russell. Oh, Sainz. They have not had poles here.
Aston Martin have had a mediocre run through practice, and they were on this charge, aren't they, in the points? Only 3 points now behind Alfa Romeo.
Remind me the targets on the dash. -5, -5.
After Stroll had that crash with Alonso, they blew a big chance in Austin. And Alfa Romeo actually have found a bit of pace. Valtteri Bottas could be one to watch out for a Q3 appearance on a track he took pole at last year. Interesting dynamics all the way down the Constructors' Championship, still playing out.
Alex Albon out on the soft tyres. Vettel and Stroll have joined the circuit too. So it's the 2 Williams, the 2 Haas and the 2 Aston Martins that are on circuit, which suggests those are the drivers that and the teams that imagine they're going to be in a bit of trouble. I can't believe how loose people are getting through turn 17 quite often now. It's not just a flat out drive through the final corner anymore. As Albon comes down towards turn 1, we're going to get the first lap time on the board here from Mick Schumacher as he comes out of the final corner now at 16, accelerates across the line. I think he might have backed off here. Mick Schumacher comes across the line and does a 1 minute 32.8, so way off the pace.
Chance of rain now accelerating towards Q3, so the final part of qualifying, when we'll see who actually gets pole position. That's when they're expecting showers to hit the circuit.
14 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. And Vettel just comes across the line to start a flying lap. Daniel Ricciardo leaves the pits in his McLaren. Schumacher did a 32.8, Magnussen did a 45.1, so both of the Haas drivers doing sort of out laps and then preparatory laps before starting their first flyer. I don't know if anyone else is doing that same tactic. Nicholas Latifi is coming through the final sector now, through the right-hander and out across the line, because a good lap time is a 1 minute 18, and I think Latifi's doing that too. So we're seeing this quite often. You were talking about this with the soft tyres early on in the warm-up and stuff.
Yeah, Albon's doing the same as well.
Okay, so brakes are looking good, especially from our side. Schumacher at the front is going. Lance is just making his gap, so there'll be a little bit of gap making now. Brakes are really looking okay. Tyre temp's okay. You're all clear behind, nobody behind. Lance has gone now, so it's just Magnussen. Bigger gap as you can get, ideally 9 seconds. Magnussen is 7, 8. Go 1, 9, 10. That's good. 11.
couple of, well, one big braking event into turn 1, then there's another one into turn 4. If you haven't got the fronts particularly in a decent working window, you'll have a lock-up and you'll miss the lap straight away.
Schumacher does a 21.024, 200 quicker than Kevin Magnussen, and Stroll does a 21.6, so 6/10 slower than Schumacher and Magnussen. Vettel into third place now, so half a second quicker than his teammate Stroll, but still a 10th off the two Haas drivers. Schumacher, Magnussen, Vettel and Stroll, but Albon is going quicker than all of them.
Daniel, if you want to push next lap, brakes look okay, so it'll be strap 2 if you want to push next lap. Otherwise, they could put Bell's lap with strap 14.
That is where Williams have been decent. The cheer you can hear is not for Nicholas Latifi's Williams, but it's for just behind it, which is Sergio Perez, who's going to launch into his first flying lap.
Latifi splits the Aston Martins, and Albon comes through and goes quickest on a 1 minute 20.859, just over a 10th quicker than Mick Schumacher. So Albon quickest, Schumacher second, Magnussen third, Vettel fourth, Latifi fifth, Stroll sixth. Perez goes into the first couple of corners now. His teammate Verstappen has just started a lap also as Perez heads down turn 4 and 5. Sonoda's on a lap that'll take him quicker than Albon. At the moment, Bottas, Ocon, Joe and Alonso still in the pits. So both Alphas and both Alpines lurking in the pit lane.
Traffic could be an issue on this one. It's just short.
Sliding so much.
Recharge up.
The stadium section seems to filter people out quite nicely. I don't really remember much traffic here in the past.
Go off track. Perez has a big snap. First flying lap for him through the S-bends at 10-11. You can go off track to get out of the way, but it is quite tight around that stadium section. Really low speed. And it's not ideal to be going at very low speed and then going off the racing line or completely off the circuit just before you're about to belt into a flying lap either. So we're definitely in Q1, something to watch out for everyone.
11 minutes and 6 seconds on the clock. Here's Verstappen's radio.
Sliding so much.
Recharge up.
Perez only goes a 10th quicker than Yuki Tsunoda. Verstappen saying that, and I think that means he was sliding so much in the first few corners that he's abandoned his lap, and the team saying put your recharge on, so he's going to recharge his battery and then go again. So an error for Verstappen in the first couple of corners.
Daniel, with that following, we saw a 10 to 15k tailwind into turn 1. That was 4.5 seconds.
7/10 of that was in the middle sector. Perez was very slidey through those faster corners as well, and Leclerc has mullered him through the middle part of the lap. Hamilton is out there getting a time on the board, but it's going to be a very slow time. Also, both Mercedes are doing prep laps as well. So various different tyre approaches here, but it looks like the way forward is, by and large, the prep lap so far. The Red Bull's trying to get into it and sliding around. It's just Leclerc who's managed to knuckle down straight away.
Huge bit of entry oversteer for Max Verstappen as he tried to come into turn 1 and then on the throttle coming out of turn 3.
That's a classic tyre warm-up thing for Verstappen into the first corner, especially the first lap of qualifying, where the track will take the biggest load of improvement through these first runs, and Verstappen there just sliding his way through those first corners. So often it's the fronts that are not up to temp.
And the RS didn't work on the back straight.
Verstappen's first sector is about 2/10 slower, just over a 10th slower than Hamilton. It's one. Ricciardo up to third place. So the order at the moment: Leclerc, Perez, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Schumacher, the top 5. Albon, Gasly, Magnussen, Vettel, Latifi, and Stroll, the 11 drivers to have set a lap time.
It was Verstappen who was struggling in free practice 3 with warm-up on tyres, saying he just couldn't get to grips with it. It looks like he's having a similar problem now.
Perez pits from second place then. So Perez into the pits. He has done a couple of laps on those tyres. Hamilton's going up in quickly in sector 2. Verstappen's going quickly as well. Leclerc is on a cool-down lap before going again. Verstappen goes quickest, a 1 minute 19.222. Hamilton in the end goes third quickest, 3/10 slower than that from Verstappen. A reminder, the quickest lap time earlier on was at 18.399. So we're still 0.8 of a second away from the pace earlier on today. And Perez is, look, he's not under huge pressure, but it's not ideal that he's back in the pits with a lap time on the board that's in the middle of the two McLarens at the moment.
Yeah, there's still more to come in as well. Bottas Ocon, Zhou and Alonso, the two Alfa Romeos and the two Alpines, are just on there, either flying laps. Yeah, they're all on flying laps. No prep laps going on there. So they're going to slot in. And Perez's first lap is very mediocre. He's a long way away, and he's felt the need to come straight back in.
Might need a new set of tyres.
I imagine he can go back out on those same ones, and still at the pace. His teammates at the front, and Perez is 1.2 seconds down, so there should be a load more in there for the other Red Bull.
Vettel improves to go up to 15th place. Alonso jumps into 6th spot. Russell is in 5th. So the order is, well, just wait for Bottas and Zhou to come through in the next 10 seconds. Then we'll give you the full order, because Bottas comes through now to go 3rd quickest.
Traffic, loads of understeer, locking fronts everywhere.
So Bottas with a very good lap. The order therefore: Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas, Hamilton, Sainz, Russell, Ocon, Alonso, Norris, Perez, the top 10. Zhou, Gasly, Ricciardo, Tsunoda and Stroll are the top 15. Eliminated at the moment would be Schumacher, Albon, Vettel, Magnussen and Latifi.
Traffic, loads of understeer, locking fronts everywhere.
Traffic and understeer for George Russell.
Well, Mercedes' first run, if we thought they were favourites, it's not good, is it? 4th for Hamilton, 6th for Russell. 3/10 away for Hamilton, 6/10 for Russell. They're certainly not playing up to that at the moment. Verstappen at the top, then Leclerc. But Bottas does show, I think, the track evolution is going to be a big thing. The times are going to tumble. He's turned up this weekend, Valtteri Bottas, rejuvenated in the updated Alfa Romeo. I said earlier on, he could be a factor for Q3. I don't think he's got the genuine pace to be 3rd, but it's...
Go to Delta on the run switch Delta. Massive cocktail out of 7. The engine. Yeah, we saw that and they know what it is.
It's a really good time, but the times will nonetheless come down, I think, fairly quickly. There's been a bit of a feature so far, a dusty track that's been up, but we've only had the first few runs, and there's the factor of teams still getting on top of these tyres.
Perez has gone out on the same set of tyres that he was on in the first run, so no new tyres for Sergio Perez as he tries to find a lap time that will improve him. He's not really, I don't think, in danger of elimination. Depends how big the track evolution is, but broadly speaking, he's in 10th spot at the moment, but that'll be a bit concerning heading towards Q3. Charles Leclerc improved in the first sector on this lap. He's currently 2nd quickest, but he isn't improving after the middle sector. He's not far off his own personal best middle sector time, only about 500ths away, but nevertheless comes through the final corner. Is he going to complete the lap, Leclerc, or will he into the pits, gets on the power? Now coming out of turn 14, the right-hander, and out into the final couple of corners as Sergio Perez is out on track first to get his flying lap in. Leclerc didn't improve by 800ths, so he was only fractionally slower.
He did ask his team if they wanted him to do another lap or not. I think he was quite keen to come in, and they said, no, just stay out and do another lap for us.
The cheers for Perez as he comes through the first sequence of corners. His first sector split on that previous lap, Perez was not too bad. Comes through this time around, and he is quicker by 1/10 of a second or so. And he's 400ths up on Verstappen.
Yeah, much better first sector for Perez. The cheers are relentless for him. Every time he comes through, you can just hear the sound of about 100,000 Mexicans in the...
And our losses to Joe and Tsunoda's 8, 9, 10. You're going to find a lot of lap times. The track's improved a lot. We need something like 0.8, but it should just come.
So the S-bends, and that looked definitely tidier for Perez. Personal best in the middle sector as well, and he's only 1/10 off Verstappen. So this will haul Perez out of provisional danger, and he'll jump right up towards his teammate.
Mick Schumacher getting a lap in. He's in 16th place at the moment. He and Kevin Magnussen going fairly early for the Haas team. So Schumacher improving in sector 1, and he is 300ths quicker than Magnussen through the first third of the lap. Perez only goes 6th fastest in the end, so didn't have a huge amount of time in that final sector.
Yeah, he lost a big shot.
Schumacher's quickest of anyone as he comes through the middle sector now. Well, he was there or thereabouts anyway as he came through the middle sector. What's it going to be? He's less than a 10th down on Hamilton in sector 1. His middle sector is a 31.0, so he has lost a bit more time now, Schumacher, but he just had a little...
Keep the feedback quite consistent about the lap time of other cars. Just could be out of sequence with some.
Copy that.
reversed his Ferrari into the wall yesterday in FP2. Here comes Schumacher to the line then. The second set of tyres.
Quicker than Perez.
And he goes 6th. But is Perez going to have to go again? We thought Haas might be in trouble. He's just launched from being in the drop zone up to 6th. The track evolution is pretty high, and Magnussen goes 11th.
So Sergio Perez drops down to 7th place, and Norris and Joe are still in the pits. They've still got time to get out there. They are just leaving the pit lane now. Russell will head out onto the circuit as well. Magnussen goes up into 10th place. Schumacher's lap time deleted. Track limits at turn 2. Turn 2 as he just absolutely annihilated the apex. Yeah, that he's gone all the way off. I remember Schumacher did that in Paul Ricard. Yeah, coming into that right left at the bottom of the run.
Turn 3.
So go one and get going. Sebastian will be pushing, but you're going now. Go now.
But it's a warm-up, no?
It's a warm-up, yeah. So staying cool. Sorry, out four, warm-up.
Out to go and find their own bit of lap time, with the track getting ever better.
Both Mercedes just heading out as well, and Lewis Hamilton on the radio apologising to the team, made a mistake in the final sector on his run, which is why he is P4 currently.
New tyres for Ocon and Alonso, as well as Norris and Joe and Gasly and Ricciardo and everybody else. But Ocon and Alonso in 8th and 9th thinking they want to do a new set of tyres. We're just getting a replay of Mick Schumacher, and yeah, he did monster it, and went all 4 wheels on the inside.
Those apex ones, you're just not expecting that you can get a Formula 1 car all the way, because if you
have plenty of time to the flag. Okay, cars behind are all in phase.
You know what I mean?
yeah, you'd have thought so.
Yellow flag in sector 2. Track is now clear again.
Wonder if that was just cars backing off and coming into the final sector, getting a little bit of space ready for a final lap. I don't think anyone was on a flyer as that yellow flag came out.
Gasly is starting one now. So at the moment, eliminated would be Stroll, Schumacher, Albon, Vettel and Latifi. 15th at the moment on the drop zone or on the bubble is Yuki Tsunoda. 14th is Ricciardo. 13th is Gasly. 12th is Joe. 11th is Norris. 10th is Kevin Magnussen. The Haas drivers are going again. Schumacher charging down towards the first corner. Joe's on his outlap still, so he's going to be the last of those ones in danger to come across the line and start a flying lap. We've got 46 seconds on the clock as Schumacher comes through sector 1, and it's not a personal best for Schumacher. Fractionally slower than he managed previously. It is.
Just try to keep your surface clean. Everyone is low. Brake temps are looking good, but you can keep putting a little bit in. So you get a good on energy, all fine on tyres energy.
This week, 16th and 19th, they're needing to find some level of good lap to get themselves out. Vettel's first sector is not good.
Down through the gears comes Pierre Gasly as he comes into the stadium section. Schumacher's 300s up on Tsunoda, so I don't think this second lap is going to be quite as rapid. Ocon across the line to go quicker than Alonso. Norris jumps up into 7th place. Ricciardo's about to improve. Gasly improves across the line to go 12th. Magnussen is starting to drop the field here down to 13th place. Stroll is doing all right. Albon's cut the corner somewhere. Albon's gone off in the middle sector, and as a result, he is not going to improve. Alex Albon eliminated from this first part of qualifying. I think Latifi is going to be also. Ricciardo jumps up into 13th place. The two Haas cars are on the bubble now. 14th Magnussen, 15th Schumacher. Latifi doesn't improve. He qualifies last. And then we've still got Vettel, Stroll and Joe to come. So those are the three that could get knocked out. Hamilton might go to the top of the times right at the end here. Vettel only goes 16th. So Aston Martin don't make it out of Q1 with Vettel or with Stroll. So it's Joe or Schumacher. Those are the two that are fighting to get through into the final part of qualifying. Hamilton does go quickest, 500s quicker than Max Verstappen on that used set of tyres. Here comes Joe now. He's up on Schumacher's time at the moment. His teammate Valtteri Bottas up in 4th place. Joe drives towards the line. Joe gets through. Schumacher out in 16th position. 17th Vettel, 18th Stroll, 19th Albon, 20th Nicholas Latifi. Everybody else through to Q2. So 2 Williams, 2 Aston Martin and a Haas. I guess maybe could have predicted that.
Harsh on Schumacher, isn't it?
Yeah, tough.
Little bit of apex.
I'm afraid we're out. We've done exactly the same time as P15. P15 at the moment. The P16.
Are we out there?
I'm afraid we're out. We're out. We've done exactly the same time as P15 at the moment. The P16.
Are we out there?
Because he did it first.
Can't believe it, man. It's so slow.
Both cars out in Q1, and Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, the target for the Aston Martin team to get ahead of Alfa Romeo into 6th in the Constructors, which would be quite some turnaround, with Zhou sneaking through into Q2. Bottas ended that session 4th, saving a set of tyres as well. Majestic run from Bottas there, and suddenly Aston Martin's momentum just stalling at this stage.
Here's Alex Albon's radio.
I honestly don't understand that. Just have a look. Is it wind or what? Because that's makes no sense.
Just got bumped out at the end, Mick. So you're P16. Kevin got through in P15.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man.
You don't understand that. Was it the wind?
He was quick earlier on, Albon, and threatened to do a bit of an underdog performance again in the Williams. But he's ended up 19th. So that mistake has put Williams right on the back row. Albon still ahead of Latifi by 0.3. The two Aston Martins, and then it was the two Hasses. And yet Schumacher should have been way up the road from where he was. But just those maybe a centimetre over the apex curve too far of turn 2, a little bit greedy. And track limits, they're a problem in qualifying. You don't get done for them in practice, so you can lull yourself in.
Just got bumped out at the end, Mick. So you're P16. Kevin got through in P15.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man.
Schumacher and Vettel doing exactly the same lap time, but good lap from Schumacher. I know it got deleted, but you know, again, there's these little glimmers here and there that make you think maybe he's got a shot at keeping his seat.
It's an error nonetheless to be going over track limits. It's an error, and it's cost Schumacher and Haas today, because if he had that sort of pace, he could have been fighting for Q3.
Oh, great save from Alex Albon. It's knocked him out, but coming into turn 7, back end just went, and he saved it.
Yeah, just past the apex where Leclerc biffed the wall yesterday. That was a big save. The barrier comes to you quickly as well on the exit of 7 on the right-hand side, and it was nicely held, but it did ruin his lap, as you said.
Check everything in the car as I clear the floor. I hit the curb in 10 or 11 pretty hard, so just double check that. Okay, understood.
Yeah, that would have been a chassis for me back in 2016.
That was Lando Norris just drifting wide, really, on the exit of 10. It didn't seem like a mistake.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. The grip was just... I don't know if it's something about tire prep or whatnot, but it's just not there.
Side of the car should be okay for the McLaren, but of course this year the underside so sensitive. That's where a lot of the downforce is coming from. So just reporting it, making sure the team are aware.
Speaking to Bottas and Zhou after the Grand Prix in America last weekend, they were both really buoyed by this update that Alfa Romeo brought to the team. Both of them saying they thought it was a real improvement, and even if it didn't sing to them last time out because of other issues, they're really confident that actually going forward, they're in the right direction. And at the final upgrade of the season, if your team's finally pulling one together that really works for you, it gives you so much confidence going forward to the next year as well.
Yeah, new floor this weekend for Alfa Romeo.
It's about time they brought some upgrades to the car, though, isn't it? This is a team that were fighting with Mercedes in Miami, and everyone was saying Bottas left Mercedes, but now he's beating them in the Alfa Romeo.
Oh yeah, the first few races of the season, I think they were sort of side by side on the grid, weren't they?
They were, yeah. Hamilton and Bottas still neck and neck. Mercedes, as you'd expect, would develop towards the front. But Romeo's plight towards the back has been pretty stark. Looks like they got some pace this weekend, though. The new components working nicely. Bottas flying in particular.
So Hamilton was quickest at the end of that session, but he did one more run compared to Max Verstappen, went 0.05 quicker. Leclerc third, Bottas fourth, Sainz was fifth, Russell was down in 6th place, and Sergio Perez in 7th position. So Alfa Romeo and Bottas, the outlier in that sort of top 6, or the interloper in the top 6. Tsunoda got up there in 9th place, right at the end. So we'll see. And Albon's just had his lap time deleted for track limits at turn 8. So yeah, okay, point taken, but It was the one he went off on and had his
Oh,
moment.
they're thorough. They are thorough.
Yeah.
They were 5 meters up, nearly clicking the wall on a very slow lap.
I once got stick from the Formula E race director because that happened in qualifying. A guy ran wide. Can't remember who it was. I think it was Norman Natto. It doesn't really matter. Runs wide, ends up bouncing through the gravel, comes back onto the track, and obviously, slows down. Blah blah blah. Still got his lap time deleted. And I was there going, "What a load of nonsense! This is, why bother?" And afterwards, the race director was like, "Did he exceed track limits?" I was like, "Yes." Does that mean his lap time should be deleted? Well, yes. Well, shut up then, was basically the conversation.
It's classic Norman Natto, that as well, isn't it?
What, track limits?
Classic Natto.
You always talk about consistency. All anyone does in Formula
exactly.
One is talk about consistency.
This is what I'm saying. Is like
bang to rights.
That's what I mean. It seems silly, but actually, yeah, you know what? Fair enough.
Praise the FIA.
Praise be.
So something that was interesting in that Q1
Yeah, tell me.
was Russell has been the pace man every time he's been in the Mercedes car, but for the first time, he did the same amount of laps as Hamilton, and he's 4 tenths behind him, which is the first time I've actually seen George Russell look uncomfortable in the Mercedes, or if not uncomfortable, not able to extract the same pace as his teammate this weekend. He's looked so hooked up through the practice sessions. There is just some inconsistency in getting these tyres working and then being able to lean on them, knowing what you've got underneath you. We saw it with Albon's big moment, Norris swiping the floor of his McLaren as well. There is inconsistency in. And by the time you get to Q3, the big guns should have as good a read as they can possibly have on the tyres and the car setup. But I still think mistakes are the order of the day.
It's a horse.
Expand on that.
The Mercedes car.
It's a horse.
Yesterday, Hamilton described it as trying to sneak up on a horse, and you never know when it's going to kick you. 13 minutes and 22, 21, 20 seconds left on the clock in Q2, and nobody out on circuit just yet in Mexico City.
Never explain a joke.
It wasn't a joke. It was a Hamilton explanation.
I don't think anyone got it.
Exactly.
Well, I thought you were then going to explain it from yesterday. Benson got it.
Still not sure.
I thought you were then going to explain it from yesterday and give some kind of driver's insight, but you simply
The
didn't.
car's a horse? No. They're well done.
They used to call them horseless carriage races, which I didn't realise. They used to be called a horseless carriage. They used to specify there is no horse with this carriage, which I found so interesting. I remember reading the first motor race in New York City back in, I can't remember the date now. I want to say 1907 or something, but it might have been later than that. But it was sponsored by Cosmopolitan magazine, and it was a race from downtown New York City up to Cosmopolitan headquarters, which is like a bit sort of upstate, only like 30 miles upstate. Anyway, it was called the Cosmopolitan Horseless Carriage Race.
There must have been a time in history where the horseless carriages were just much slower than the horse carriages. When the motor vehicle first came in and they were powered on their own steam.
But were they called a horse carriage? A horse and carriage? Yeah, I guess they were.
Horse and carriage, yeah.
And then you had to specify it was a horseless carriage that you were racing. So the horses did
down hills, amazing.
Yeah. 11 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. Cars going out on circuit. And Hamilton is the first out on circuit, followed by Russell. Leclerc and Sainz are the last to leave the pit lane. This is the
three cars still to go. Positive on the brakes into 12. Positive on the brakes into 12.
Magnussen it'll be tough for. Apart from that, don't know, because the AlphaTauris have shown a bit of speed. Surely it'll be tough for Daniel Ricciardo, you'd have to predict. So maybe Magnussen and Ricciardo. And then it's quite up in the air.
Just to change the subject slightly, the tow. I saw a couple of teams trying out the tow in practice sessions. A couple of teams I've spoken to say they don't think it's worth too much around here because at the altitude. Others say they think it's worth a try. What do you guys think?
I'd be amazed if we see much towing. There's a long straight which Hamilton's on his first lap of Q2 here, but the air's thin. Is this one of the notorious things about this circuit is the slipstream is not worth a huge amount because the air's thin. You're not punching such a hole through, therefore having your air resistance. And then also there's plenty of corners in there as well. Hamilton now on the brakes into turn 4. The rest of the lap now is just corner after corner after corner.
People are pushing on at first time lap, so Hamilton time lap turn 6.
Closely at this part into turn 1, if there's someone that's not on a flying lap, then you take a little bit of a gain. It's not like Monza or some other places where it's really worthwhile.
And
I would have thought.
And I think even if you did the sort of slingshot like we saw, was it Red Bull do somewhere earlier this year? Paul Ricard. Ferrari and Paul Ricard, yeah. Even if you do that, you can't really do that here because it's the start-finish straight. So you're compromising. You can't come out the pits and do a toe on that lap because you're already halfway out the pit lane. You can't come into that. You can't do it on your in-lap because you're already around. So it would take quite a lot of coordination to pull it off, I think.
Just a note, used tyres, sorry, for Verstappen, Leclerc and Perez out of your top drivers at the moment. Everybody else is on new.
That's interesting. So Hamilton going straight out on a set of new tyres and doing an 18.5. Russell also on new tyres.
And we have win phase 5, around 10 kph, slightly stronger than before.
Also on a new set of tyres. Perez goes 4th quickest in between the two AlphaTauris. Verstappen did the fastest first sector of anyone. Goes into 3rd, which is 7/10 ahead of Tsunoda. So Verstappen should be okay, but I wonder if... Perez was on a used set, wasn't he? So I wonder if he'll have to do a new set to get through into Q3 here, Perez, because Ricciardo's gone quicker than him. Norris has gone quicker than him as well. Here's Russell's radio.
Ooh, can you really look into these brakes? Something's not right again. The front brakes are not getting any temperature when I hit them hard.
Russell not being getting any temperature into his brakes. He's only 100th slower than Hamilton on his lap, but that's not ideal. Bottas goes into 3rd place. Perez has to put a new set of boots on.
He's not done anywhere near enough. 8th place ahead of Joe and Gasly now, but everyone else still to put a time in. Remember, Perez did an extra run on that first set of tyres as well, coming through the pits, because he didn't do a great lap on his initial one. So his used tyres are worse than Verstappen's used tyres. I'll tell you what, Bottas's pace is fantastic.
Yeah.
2 tenths away from the Mercedes that we think could be in the mix for pole.
It's gone 3rd quickest out through Bottas now. Verstappen 4th. 5th for Norris, 6th for Ricciardo. So decent lap there from Ricciardo, both on new tyres in the McLarens. 7th for Tsunoda, 8th for Perez, 9th for Joe, 10th for Gasly. Magnussen's 11th. No lap time yet for Leclerc, Sainz, Ocon or Alonso. Leclerc maybe backed off on his first lap, or was just doing a prep lap?
It was a prep lap for Leclerc. Sainz is doing the same thing. Now he's launching into a flying lap. Leclerc's first sector not great. Sainz is even worse, 3 tenths away from Hamilton.
Stop in front of our garage. Daniel will be in front of his. Weybridge.
Is Leclerc, who is coming into the stadium section now through the right-hander. Carlos Sainz comes through the middle sector, and compared to Lewis Hamilton, he is half a second adrift. So again, this isn't going to be comfortable, I wouldn't say, for the Ferraris either. Here comes Leclerc on the power out of the final corner, 5th quickest, so ahead of the McLarens, but only 100th ahead of Lando Norris. Carlos Sainz comes through now, and he goes up into 7th place. I don't know here if the Ferraris might need a new set of tyres as well. 6 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. We'll see what they decide to do. Ocon and Alonso about to put in a lap time. It's 8th for Alonso. For Esteban Ocon, it is 5th. Ahead of the Ferraris. Perez currently down in 12th place. So eliminated as it stands, Tsunoda, Perez, Joe, Gasly and Magnussen, with Hamilton quickest, Russell 2nd. Bottas 3rd, Verstappen 4 tenths away in 4th place, but he was on used tyres compared to the new ones for Hamilton, Russell and Bottas.
17 hundredths, just under 2 tenths Verstappen to Leclerc, used tyres, and 4 tenths used tyres to new tyres, Verstappen and the Mercedes. We're yet to see how that's going to work its way out. Hamilton's time on a used tyre in Q1 was still fairly handy, managed to improve. The field is tight down to the top 10. Then there's a gap of 3 tenths Ricciardo to Tsunoda. But outside the top 10 is Sergio Perez, who will put on a new set of tyres now and jump up. And I think that's going to mean, even if you're Max Verstappen, I think you can take no chances.
Yeah.
I think you've got to go on a new set of tyres. I don't think anyone's done it.
So it's a good start. See if we can keep building from there. Have a think about flap angle, please, on the way in. And as ever, watch for the Weybridge lights.
Copy, yes, give it the same.
Copy that.
You're at. Considering Perez will put on a new set, that'll push Verstappen down to 5th. If your McLarens, your Alpines can find another 10th or 2, it's going to be too close to cool.
5 minutes and 2 seconds left on the clock. Perez getting the encouragement as he comes through the first few corners. He's on his outlap now, so he's going to crack straight on with it on a new set of soft tyres as he comes down into turns 4, 5 and 6. So he heads out of the pit lane, and he's the only driver out on track at the moment. No one else has departed the pit lane yet. Tyre change going on.
Just do it at high speed. Make sure these tyres are switched on.
Wheel guns firing in there.
Bit of pressure on Perez, 12th at the moment, and out on his home Grand Prix in a Red Bull that should be fighting for pole. 12th because he's on used tyres, and he will, on new tyres, be able to get through. Should be fairly comfortable. With 4 minutes to go, Red Bull have given him enough chances for at least a couple of flying laps in case of a mistake, which we've seen a few drivers make. Still, the pressures to the home crowd needs to make it through.
Well, let's see whether he goes flat out on this first lap or does a prep lap. He comes down the start-finish straight now. DRS wide open as he comes charging in towards the first corner at 215 miles per hour, then gets onto the brakes. DRS slams shut, turns into the first right-hander, hooks up the apex very, very quickly indeed. Big chunk of curb at turn 2. And then on the power, out towards turn 4. First sector split for Perez is a 27.7, which is okay, pretty much matching Max Verstappen in sector 1. But everybody else will be going out too soon.
A 10th down on Hamilton's first sector. He's definitely pushing on this first lap, not trying to do a prep lap, which others have done. He's got plenty of pace in hand. He's got to make no mistakes through this middle sector, which seems to be the key one. The faster corners, 7 through to 11.
Verstappen's out on a new set as well.
Yeah, he had to. It is just too risky for a driver that should be fighting for pole to sit it out at this stage. He's got the tyres. It's just not worth it for him to stay in and save another set of new softs.
Perez into the stadium section at turn 13. Deafening noise in the support of the man from Guadalajara as he comes through the final 2 corners now, out across the line, and Perez goes third fastest. Minute 18.615, 600 slower than Lewis. Should be enough to book himself a place through into Q3. Bottas has gone out on a new set of softs as well, so everybody out there on a new set of the soft tyres, and with 2 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock, we'll see what they can do. Hamilton and Russell out on used, meanwhile, so they've just left the pit lane now to get another run in. But Perez then up into third place. As I said, should be enough to see him through into the final part of qualifying.
That'll be safe for Perez. They're still slower than the Mercedes, though. The 2 Mercedes just half a tenth up on Perez. It'll be interesting to see, as much as who gets knocked out here, what sort of pace the Ferraris and Verstappen can have, because it's so difficult to find a true pecking order, even at this stage, even to know who's in contention. The Ferrari's now launching into a flying lap. Sainz opens the DRS. Looks like he's going to be pushing straight away, even though he's actually got time for a slower lap if he needed it. The drop zone right now, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Zhou, Gasly and Magnussen. I would have said they're probably the 5 to go. So one of them has to do a really standout job here to knock anyone else out, and that would be the surprise.
Agreed. So at the moment it's Fernando Alonso who's in 10th on the bubble, Sainz in 9th in the Ferrari, but we're expecting the Ferraris to improve, although Sainz is over a 10th away from Hamilton in sector 1. That is the slightly unpleasant sound you can hear of Carlos Sainz's Ferrari coming through turns 5 and 6. Magnussen up on Alonso in the first sector. Zhou's first sector is not a personal best. So not great for Joe at the moment, but he is now starting to improve in the middle sector. Sonoda coming through the first few corners as well. Verstappen's about to set a lap time, and on a set of tyres, he's not going to beat the Mercedes here. Here he comes through the final corner, goes third quickest, but still slower than Hamilton.
Over the line, lift off and mode charge.
Third. It's only Q2. It doesn't matter. That'll be Verstappen now safely through. Sainz goes second. 8,000. 14,000 to separate the top four.
That's a farce. This is a farce. It's almost 25 years to the day since Jerez 97. I think that was last weekend, or last Tuesday, I think, was the 25th anniversary. Hamilton across the line. Joe goes 12th quickest. So not an improvement for Joe. Norris only goes 9th. Gasly 14th, doesn't improve. Here comes Yuki Tsunoda out across the line now. And Tsunoda is currently 13th. Will he jump up the order in the AlphaTauri? No, he remains 13th, but he out-qualifies Pierre Gasly. Ricciardo is improving. I think we might be done here. Ricciardo out across the line, and he doesn't get through. So 11th Ricciardo, 12th for Joe, 13th Tsunoda, 14th Gasly, 15th Kevin Magnussen. So it was those 5 drivers.
Mode in, please. Mode in. So we are P14, Kev, so I'm afraid we are not going through to the next session, but good job nonetheless.
Slower than Norris. It's a couple of 10 tires. Not great.
It's a bit better this weekend.
Yeah.
Scene of his last pole position here, back in 2018, 4 years ago. He's been much closer, and he can think about some points, help McLaren out from 11th on the grid tomorrow. Russell on his used tyres had a bit of a lock-up on that last lap into turn 1. I tell you what, Leclerc's first sector on that last lap as well was miserable on a new set of tyres in the Ferrari. He ended up 8th.
His middle sector was rapido.
Yeah, exactly. He did the fastest middle sector of anyone, but his first sector was 6 or 7 tenths away from the pace. Looked like he's in trouble.
Okay, Pierre, that's P14. Don't really know what to say. Just no grip. Was a clean lap, but just no grip.
Well done, Kev, getting into Q2 after yesterday and car changes. That was a good effort.
Really bad example as well. Young drivers watching this who are karting, coming through. It's not okay to do that. It's not okay to be that person, I don't think.
You're P11, I'm afraid. P11, 50 milliseconds to Alonso.
I don't think Gasly's team ready was
that wasn't
so
too bad,
you know, but the Austin stuff was
continually,
worse.
every weekend, he's angry Gasly, angry man.
He's done. He's checked out, isn't he? For the year,
Clearly.
I think he's not happy with the performance. He's just been out-qualified by his teammate. Tsunoda up by just under a tenth of a second. Not much between the two AlphaTauris. I think Gasly is off to Alpine next year. Should be a better chance for him.
Benson, do you have the qualifying average with AlphaTauri?
If you give me a little while to a couple of minutes.
Okay, so we'll get a couple of comments and run through the plan when you plug in.
Frustrating for Tsunoda. No, because Tsunoda versus Gasly has been a really interesting fight this year, so I'm curious as to what the numbers actually are.
Okay, so until today, it was 10.6 to Gasly at races where you can compare even fairly at 0.229 of a second on average. So it's quite a big performance advantage for Gasly, even though
it's
10.7. It's 10.7 now because
10.7.
Tsunoda's just done him, yeah.
So when Gasly out-qualifies Tsunoda, it's by a bigger margin than when Tsunoda out-qualifies Gasly, fundamentally.
Yeah, basically, Gasly's better. Yeah.
It feels about that, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the second year running, in fact, Tsunoda undoubtedly has improved. AlphaTauri, in the end, are going to take quite a big, I think, by losing Gasly, who has led the team well, won a race for them, got on the podium for them. It remains to be seen how good Nick De Vries can be alongside Tsunoda. I think that's why I think De Vries has moved to.
Yeah, well done, Kev, getting into Q2 after yesterday and car changes. That was a good effort.
Thanks, Mark.
19.4 that was for Joe. Half a second. No, 7 tenths, there we go, slower than his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Bottas has fully turned up this weekend. I think you used that phrase earlier on.
Do you want Bottas against Joe?
Yeah,
Everyone's been
all
going
right.
on about how great Joe's been in his debut season, yeah? So Bottas is 12.5 up at 0.324 of a second until today, when he's beaten him, 7/10?
Can I filter those results?
Of course you can, yeah.
Take them from Canada onwards. Bottas v Zhou.
This is live spreadsheet action in the BBC F1 commentary box.
0.187, so not that different.
There you go. That's why Zhou has been impressive, because actually Bottas, there's the classic, the stats don't tell the whole picture for me in so many of these stories. Haas, I think Schumacher's been solid against Magnussen.
Yeah.
But he lost a huge amount of points in Bahrain, race 1. The same with Zhou. It's understandable that Zhou would be a little bit adrift of Valtteri Bottas, race winner, spent many a year alongside Lewis Hamilton. Of course he's going to be pretty handy. Zhou is a rookie. But actually, this is why Zhou's been impressive, because he's improved. He's done really great jobs in the wet, by the way, as well. Every time it rains in qualifying, he seems to be on it. And yeah, his rate of progress has been good. I still don't absolutely know if it's Zhou picking up or Bottas drifting away in the parts this year. He's had some poor reliability at times. Sometimes he just hasn't looked as hooked up, Valtteri, as he was really hungry starting the season with Alfa Romeo. He looks brilliant again this weekend. He looks absolutely back on it in a car that's competitive. And this is more what you'd expect. But the raw numbers, I don't think, do Zhou justice, because it's neck and neck between them a lot of the time now.
I'm so excited at this final part of qualifying. I really hope it doesn't let us down, because the top 5 being separated by 0.063, the top 4 separated by 0.014. It's got all of the makings of a brilliant qualifying session, and when that happens, it normally lets us down.
We've had an amazing amount of times this year where the top 3, usually Verstappen and Leclerc, have been covered by less than 1/10 of a second. I can't tell you exactly how many, but I think Sainz referenced it after qualifying in Austin. And he was saying, 3 or 4 times. I think Austria was one of them. I think there have been plenty of times this year where less than 1/10 has covered the top 3.
It was Japan, wasn't it, where he qualified 3rd?
Oh, yeah, that was it.
And then was like, I'm half a 10th off again.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being decisive as he crashed in the spray of Perez on Sunday. Took pole last time out, and he could take pole this time out. Any of the top 6 can take pole in this. It's a really, really good qualifying session. Yeah, the top 5 there, separated by half a 10th, is just bonkers.
Are you feeling Bottas could get in amongst it? Is that too much to ask when it comes to the final part of quali?
I don't think Bottas. I'm not counting Bottas in the top 6.
Do you think he's ahead of Perez?
Well, no, I think Perez will beat him. I think he's doing tremendous. I mean, he might pick off anyone that makes a mistake of the top 6, but the Ferraris, the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, take your pick.
That's the most encouraging lap time all day from Ferrari, with Carlos Sainz in 2nd. They've looked a long way adrift, I think, today so far.
Yeah, it's come at a good time, hasn't it? The final run before Q3.
Leclerc wasn't happy with the car in the final part of practice today. He was relatively happy in the first practice session yesterday. Then we went into tyre testing. He said that the setup changes they've made he wasn't that pleased with. I believe they've reverted back to yesterday's setup before qualifying today. So let's see if it pays off. Certainly seems happier than he did in the earlier session, but he still doesn't look like it's totally hooked up.
Well, his middle sector at the end there was rapid, a couple of tenths up on Verstappen. His first sector was a big mistake, and that shows the inconsistencies again that we're seeing around this circuit. It's tricky. Grip level is low, downforce is low, cars are sliding. You can do one sector perfect, the other one a mistake, and in the end it's the mistake that's going to cost you here when the times are so close.
The combined fastest sectors give you a 1 minute 18.1. The fastest lap time we've seen is a 1 minute 18.5. Now, obviously, there are car differences around the various points of the circuit, but that's a big difference.
And the fastest lap time we've seen this weekend is still Russell earlier on in practice.
18.399.
Yeah, so we still haven't got within a 10th of Russell's practice time from earlier on.
Yeah, air temperature and track temperature are pretty similar. I think it's about 4 degrees warmer track temperature.
Okay, let's see if we can get those rear tyres negative. Just remember what you need to do, sector 2.
Gusts that can pick up around the circuit. It can funnel as well between the barriers. And we heard Albon saying, was it wind for his big snap at turn 7? Maybe it's just what's adding to the unpredictability. Who are we going for? Who do you reckon?
I don't. I think Hamilton. I think Hamilton. I think it's Verstappen. I think it's Verstappen.
It's Leclerc.
Leclerc?
Obviously. It's Leclerc. He'll pull out a rabbit from the hat.
It's going to be a big old rabbit.
In a puff of smoke.
A hair. It'll be Leclerc by a hair's breadth.
Do you prefer?
No risk of catching people on the other.
We are okay. Yep. Look after your tires for nice prep.
Bigger, not so good over the curbs, bit bouncy.
Ears not good for aero. Here comes
more
Perez
drag.
through the exactly.
But
Perez
then again, it's Mexico City, it's thin air, the drag's not such a problem. I go with a hair.
9 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. Here comes Sergio Perez down towards turn 1. He's the first driver to go for it in this first run of 2 in the final part of qualifying. Through the curbs, over the curbs at turn 2 and 3. Neat and tidy for Perez, and his first sector is so far. Very nice stuff that from Sergio Perez through sector 1. Verstappen's going to be, Sainz and Leclerc are the next 2 to start a lap. Then it'll be Verstappen, then it'll be Hamilton, then it'll be Russell, and out on used tyres at the moment is Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon. Everybody else out on new.
That Perez first sector is the best Red Bull have done so far this weekend, and he's up on Sainz by half a tenth. Leclerc's first sector is not good. He's 3 tenths down. Perez is looking hooked up on this lap.
Yeah, Sainz is reasonable in sector 1. Perez has the fastest middle sector of the session so far. He's absolutely on a mission here, coming into the right-hander of turn 12 and into the grandstand again. And compared to his teammate Max Verstappen, he is slightly slower though. Verstappen quicker than Perez in sector 1.
Perez is on it though, really throwing the car around through the middle sector. Now he comes out of turn 16, gets closer to the wall, arcing round the right-hander, drives to the line.
1 minute 18.153 for Sergio Perez. It's a quick lap. He goes quickest. Carlos Sainz isn't going to beat it. Across the line, and he is a couple of tenths away. Sainz sets the fastest third sector of anyone. At the moment, though, it is Max Verstappen that's going quicker. Leclerc is miles away as he slots into third place. 7 tenths adrift of Sergio Perez. Verstappen through the middle.
So positive on the brakes on the way in, positive on the brakes. Okay, Max is done a 17.9 and Hamilton an 18.0.
10th down on Hamilton through the first sector. This is so close. It's even quicker in the middle sector.
This is only the first run in qualifying, but Verstappen goes to the top of the times, 2 tenths quicker than Sergio Perez. Hamilton comes out of the final corner now. Bottas splits the Ferraris. Hamilton, meanwhile, goes second quickest. Not quite enough to beat Verstappen. He misses out at the moment after the first runs. Russell goes second. He's slightly closer to Verstappen, but not close enough. Verstappen on provisional pole with 1 run still to go. A tenth to Russell, a tenth to Hamilton, 2 tenths to Perez, 4 tenths to Sainz. Bottas is 6th. Leclerc is nowhere, and everybody else on used tyres. And Hamilton's lap time deleted. Track limits at turn 3, so must have been on the outside of turn 3, I can only imagine. But
There are drivability issues, mate. Power dropping out.
Okay, copy. We'll have a look.
But Larry through the apex of turn 8 as well. That's another corner where we've seen drivers even at higher speed than these cars that in theory are a bit more bouncy and not as compliant. 4-wheel drift for Sainz over the curbs there. He's only 4th, 4 tenths away from pole, but there's more in it than for his Ferrari. And Leclerc again had a scrappy first sector, lost a heap of time there. Ferrari, having looked a little bit closer in the last runs, dropping away, and Bottas has split them. The Hamilton track limits, that is costly for Lewis Hamilton. No banker on the board now.
Drivability issues, mate. Power dropping out.
Okay, copy. We'll have a look.
power dropping out, says Hamilton. So the order is Verstappen, Russell, Perez, Sainz, Bottas the top 5, Leclerc, Norris and Ocon, the 8 drivers to have set a lap time. Alonso's on it.
Okay, so first round, you are P1 by just over a tenth to Russell. Hamilton was a tenth and a half slower, but he has lost that lap time. Checo down 2 tenths in P4. Ferrari's 18.3 and 18.8. Heads up on the balance, Max, for the final run.
One more click.
Okay, understood. In terms of sectors, you are purple in 1 and 3, We're lacking a 10th to Russell in sector 2.
To actually get all four wheels off at the same time there. Feels like by the time the rears are off, the fronts are back on. It looked like turn 2 was really marginal. The same place as Schumacher was pinged earlier on.
Alonso goes into 7th place then, slowest of the drivers on a new set of tyres. So 7th spot for the Alpine driver. But I don't know if that, I presume you're still cutting the corner, even if you're not actually all four wheels off the circuit because it's a short corner. I guess you're still cutting it, aren't you? I get what you're saying.
Wheels off the track. If you've got a wheel on the track, then you're within track limits at all times. That's the rule.
Yeah, but I would thought that with Schumacher earlier on as well.
Yeah, I think that there seems to be a bigger space on the apex of 2 than there is at 3. I'm sure the stewards got it right, and that lap was over. We've only seen the onboard angle. I'm sure there was that space from there. What it means is there's pressure on Hamilton. There's not on Russell now. For the fact that the Mercedes duo both have to want to take this pole. Russell doesn't improve. If Hamilton makes a mistake now, pole.
So it's the one.
No, if anyone can do it, Hamilton can pull one out of that. We have seen it countless times. So that's the most poles in history.
So, yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like, is there pressure? Because only because you're not in a if he was in a championship fight, I'd fully.
So again, these guys out laps are much quicker than ours. I think they'll space themselves out nicely.
Nothing isn't 10th. Nothing is 2nd.
And he knows there. It's there for the taking this weekend. He's just been able to see that.
Not quite in the fight, and it was 6th or 10th. No pressure. Mercedes could win this race. They are as competitive as they've been all season long. It's a long run down to the first corner. Maybe starting 2nd or 3rd isn't a disaster. Just try and race down to that first braking zone. Starting 10th is bad, but you can't then just be safe, or you won't be quick enough to beat Perez, maybe Bottas. So there's a trick one. Losing that lap for Hamilton. You can do it again. Not limit. Go. Evolution.
So again, these are ours. I think this goes out nice.
Heroes extra. Verstappen after the hasn't actually improved in the middle sector, although he's finding time currently. Russell's going to be last across the line. Verstappen is about to set the fastest first sector of anybody. Here comes Sergio Perez out across the line for the Mexican. Is it a fairy tale home pole? It will not be. Third on the grid provisionally at the moment, but Verstappen does the fastest first sector of anybody. Russell coming through sector 1 now. Hamilton very slow in sector 1. Hamilton's not in the 5 pole here.
Right, he's not that far from Russell. He's done his first final. What can you for Leclerc? That's
100th from Max Verstappen after the middle sector, but Verstappen is finding some more time here. Here comes Verstappen out of the final corner, and he finds a good chunk. This is going to be a big, big ask for Hamilton to find this pace in the final couple of corners. Here he comes to the line, and he doesn't do it.
And currently P4 and mod slot and lift off. Good job anyway. You were 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. You were purple last sector for now. And Charles lap time 18.55. More tailwind 2 and 3.
Perez 4th, Sainz 5th, Bottas, Leclerc, Norris, Alonso and Ocon the top 10. Another pole for Verstappen.
Russell was flying fastest through the middle sector.
That's pole position, mate. Great job.
Yes, let's go, guys. Let's go. Very lovely, that. Good job.
Then Russell went off into turn 12. That's where the lap got away from him. Through the rough area,
So it still looked a bit out of reach.
So
But he'll get a 5th-place grid drop. Schumacher 16th, Vettel 17th, 18th Stroll, 19th, 20th Nicholas Latifi.
Bottas did Leclerc at the end. Bottas did beat Charles Leclerc.
This is one of the worst Ferrari qualifying days in a long time, no?
Bottas is half a tenth away from being the best Ferrari-powered car in the circuit in the improved Alfa Romeo. Amazing job from Valtteri Bottas today. And Ferrari, really, their downturn in performance this year is a real concern.
What's happened to them? The only thing I can even think of to give them a little hope is that they're concentrating on
some awesome laps today, and now we're set up really good for the race tomorrow. Yeah, agreed.
for Ferrari fans, but P5 for Carlos Sainz and P7 for Leclerc, that's gonna, wow.
I mean, maybe, because they're, you know, it wasn't great for them. Where was it where they really struggled with this recently? Singapore?
Where haven't they struggled, Jack?
Well, I know, but there was somewhere recently.
I mean, coming off America, that hurt us. We had nothing in the tyres.
Yeah.
I think it's been like the last 4 races.
Absolutely. Well, look at him. 3, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. When was the last time wasn't Ferrari in the 3? There's a question for you, which we will maybe answer after we've heard from Max Verstappen, who's down on the grid, talking to David after securing pole.
Back position. You'd been there, but then there was the yellow flag infringement. This time, nothing's getting in the way of you starting right at the very front.
Yeah, it was a good qualifying. I think it was a close one, but I think after FP3 we made a few adjustments and the car going to have with him. And yeah, to be in pole here is of course amazing. I know, of course, it's a very long run to turn one, so we do need a good start. But anyway, I think we have a quick car, and of course it's important.
Yeah, the first car is somewhere way down there in the distance, so that's going to make it interesting at the start. Before we get to the race tomorrow, though, you really seemed like you came a little bit from the back foot to then find your form right when it counted. Amazing atmosphere here.
Over here, also in this state. I mean, yeah, it's amazing to drive here.
Now, you've got a very famous teammate, Checo, who's been getting all the love. He's not there with you in the top three, but he's going to be playing a part tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, Checo will be there tomorrow. I'm sure we have a quick race car, so yeah, I hope it will be quite a fun race with a lot of action.
Well, just quickly put us in that then. What are you expecting tomorrow in terms of potential strategy, and then also keeping these very fast Mercedes cars behind you?
Yeah, I think it will be close in the race. I mean, normally they have very good race pace as well, so yeah, depends on what you can do with the strategy, but we'll look into that tonight.
Okay, Max, enjoy the position.
Thank you.
So, George Russell, welcome back to the front row. It looked for a moment through free practice, through the sessions, you were building your weekends. We heard you on the radio there, a bit frustrated that you felt that you could have done more. Put us in the cockpit.
Yeah, I mean, the team deserve more today. They've produced a really great car this weekend, and I think it's, you know, a testament to them for the hard work they've been putting in for so long. And we saw last week with Lewis what the car was capable of, and this weekend I feel like it was our pole to have, and it was just a terrible lap from my side. So sort of kicking myself, but at the end of the day, no points for qualifying, and excited to be back in the front row.
Yeah, well, it was a great qualifying session to watch. Great to see that you were battling hard there with Max. Just explain to the viewers at home, why is this suiting your car better? You know, you were on the front row in Budapest, but that was some time ago. What is it about the altitude here in Mexico?
Well, we brought an update to Austin. I think it didn't really give it the opportunity to show what it was truly capable of. But with this high altitude, the drag is less of a factor, and that's where we get outscored by Red Bull. Let's say they're always taking about 3 tenths out of us on straight, and here it's less of a factor. So that's probably why we're a little bit more competitive.
Okay, throw it forward. Race day tomorrow, that's where the points are. Being second maybe isn't such a disadvantage when you go off the line. It's a long run.
I'll be going for it for sure. So let's see what's possible.
Okay, George, enjoy the front row qualifying, and we're going to hear from your teammate. Lewis, not the position you would have wanted, of course. You had your first attempt deleted for track limits. Does that unsettle you on that run? How good was that final lap?
Well, firstly, hola. Yeah, unfortunately, the first one, which I think was quick enough for second, I think maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't quite good enough. And the Red Bulls naturally are so fast. So, but I think this is such an amazing show, and I'm really proud of my team. This is the best qualifying we've had all year. So it just shows that you just perseverance and never giving up is the way forward. So big thanks to everybody here and back at the factory.
Great to see George as well, back on form, maybe not quite as strong as you in Austin. But here he's really been laying down the lap times. So anything that you can learn from his laps?
Oh, I think generally my laps have been pretty good. So I think the last lap wasn't good enough, but still more performance in it. And yeah, just keep pushing. I'm pretty happy with that position to start, to me. It's a long way down to turn one.
Well, that's just what we talked about there with George. Maybe second, maybe third isn't the worst place to be. So that plays a part in your strategy to the run down to the first corner.
Let's hope so.
Okay, keeping your cards close to your chest. Enjoy the podium, the top 3 position.
So it's Hamilton, Russell, and the man in pole position will be Max Verstappen. And we were saying it wasn't the greatest of qualifying sessions for Ferrari, one of their worst of the season, in fact. But for P2 and P3 for Mercedes, one of their best of the season, if not their very best of the season. And you heard them saying it's 811 metres down to the braking zone at turn 1. Is there hope for Mercedes fans tomorrow that they can go out there and get the win?
It's race on. It's race on, which is exciting. Last year, Max Verstappen qualified third, took the lead at the start, won the race. It's the sort of track with such a long run down to the first corner. You can pass, we said it earlier, qualifying, you want to start on pole, of course. Verstappen had good pace today. It was tight, but he came out on top. It's a long race tomorrow still, though.
Mercedes favourite for the win? I got you to say it for the pole and it didn't work out.
Fighting again.
They got a real shot, though. They got a real shot.
And they're 2 cars up there. As an average, is their best qualifying. In Hungary, but this time they got 2 cars in the top 3.
Russell's 3rd front row start of the season.
Good for Russell. Wasn't quite enough. He was furious with himself for the mistake he made, but it is Max Verstappen who takes pole position once again. The Mexican Grand Prix gets underway at 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Make sure you come and join us on 5 Live. And thank you for being part of the qualifying show this Saturday night. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.